Good afternoon, all. I'd like to welcome you to Leveraging AutoCAD Details in Revit with CTC Tools. My name is David Gear. I'm a Senior Technical Specialist with ATG USA. So our agenda today is to leverage CAD details from manufacturers and your existing library. There's no need to recreate the wheel when it has already been created. You just need to clean it up and make sure that it's in the right platform. For that, we're going to use the CTC detail link to quickly bring in our CAD files. See how the CTC tool type swapper can clean up our residual CAD information and get it to conform to Revit. Let's go ahead and transform these details and roll out. So for those that were in the 80s, hopefully you enjoy the Optimus Prime there. So I'm going to come over to our Revit platform here. And Justin, are you still able to see my screen now that I've changed items? Okay, thank you. So I'm going to come over to our CTC tab here, and I'm going to grab the detail link tool. And what this is going to allow me to do is go browse out to my server where I would have these details located. And I've just got about 4 here. I could come out and go grab one that's got 1,000 details. It's up to me where I want, but not to inundate everybody with 500 details to bring in. I can bring in just the 1 detail or 2 details, or I can come in and say select all details, excuse me, and add all the details at a given time. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK here. When I do this, how do I want these items to come in? One, I'm going to tell it to import versus link because I want to take these AutoCAD details and convert them over to Revit details. I don't really care about positioning so much, but I could. Do I want it to preserve colors or black and white? I'm going to tell it to preserve colors because one of the other tools I want to do is be able to take that AutoCAD detail and know that I've fully translated it over to Revit information. How do I want to handle the layers and import units, especially from manufacturers? I don't know. I could say visible. I could say all, but I typically don't know, so I'm going to say all. I'm going to go ahead and hit import link, and it's going to bring in all those files and then give me a report of what's going on with those files, so that if I had any errors, it would give me an error log. And so that quickly brought in those 4 AutoCAD details, and I'm going to hit WT on my keyboard. I'm going to go ahead and close out of level 1, and then I'm going to hit ZA on my keyboard to zoom all to fit. So now I've got these AutoCAD details, and you can see the colors and items of that nature. Well, one thing it didn't do was come in and set the appropriate drafting view size for these details. So I'm going to come in here and set these to the appropriate size. And this last one right here is actually 1.5 inches. Well, it didn't look like it changed anything because these still are seen as an imported symbol. One of the things that I really need to do here that we always say don't do in Revit is come in and import and fully explode, right? It leaves a lot of AutoCAD residual information that Revit does not like. So I'm going to go in here and fully explode all these items, which everybody knows is something that is always a big no-no in Revit. And the reason why I want to do that is because I want these items to come over in here, and if I should change scale, that the text and whatnot is going to change with it. So now I want to get rid of these items in here and say, okay, you're going to be on the appropriate layer, right? Or excuse me, I stand corrected, line style, right? I could come in and say, hey, you're really on thin lines. That's a lot of picking and clicking to do. What I'm going to do to kind of speed myself up is use the CTC tools type swapper. And what this allows me to do is, one, I'm going to come over here to the text types, and everywhere you see a check mark means those are approved text types that are available for me to use and approved by my company. Well, you'll see all these ones with 1 hour, concrete, sound, acoustical. Those are the ones that were pulled in from AutoCAD. I could sort it by count type and say, okay, I see these elements all have something on them. So my sound acoustical wall, I can come over here and say that they need to be an 1/8 inch aerial because they were really an 1/8 inch aerial in AutoCAD. My 1 hour here, same thing. My concrete, however, those are 3/4 inch aerial, and I've got 8 here on this full height wall. So I'm going to set those to 1/8 inch. Acoustical sound 3, I'm going to set to 16th and 16th. And there's one here, so I'm going to set that to an 1/8. And so what I'm going to do is go ahead and swap those out. And so now if I go back into each view, you'll see that everything is now on an appropriate Revit text style or text type. So if I go back into the type swapper here, if these elements had dimensions, I could change out the dimension style. Well, none of these have dimensions on them, so there's no dimensions I need to. You saw earlier where I could go through and actually pick the different lines and change them. Well, that's a lot to do, especially if there's 625 of them. So I'm going to come over here to a detail, and I know those need to be thin lines. Any of these annotation symbols, I'm going to make them thin lines. Obviously, detail thin, I would assume that if they're using AIA standards or good national CAD standards, that these are going to conform to medium thin lines. So once I have them all set up here, I'm going to hit swap. Now, I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to take some time. And so we're going to have a little dead space in here. When I launch this, I'm going to actually see if there's any questions that maybe I can answer while this is going through, because I did this earlier for the 4 views we have. It's approximately going to take 2.5 minutes per view. So we're looking around 6 minutes of time that the type swapper is going to go through and change all these out. So if there's any questions, feel free to ask at this time. So where do you get the CTC software? That's a great question. So in the United States, ATG USA is the authorized reseller for CTC software. If you're in Canada, I believe it is, help me out here, Justin. SolidCAD, thank you very much. So if you're in Canada, then SolidCAD is your authorized reseller for the CTC software. Now I'm actually using 2 of the different suites here. Okay, hold on just a second. I see that there's some questions here. Okay, so Dan, so to kind of answer your question, so you asked, would you normally don't want to fully explode imported objects in Revit, but you're saying that to use these CTC tools, you do need, yes, that is correct. I need to, in order to be able to put them on the proper Revit line style, the proper Revit text type, to get rid of all that AutoCAD information. I'm hoping that answered your question, Dan. Okay, all right, so Richard, you look like, so is there a way to select an item from the list and have a way for you to see that item so you can verify what it is? So I guess, Richard, I guess what you're asking is if like you say like the line style, you say, hey, I want to know what is on the G Annotext layer from AutoCAD. Is there a way to select it and highlight what those elements are in the model? If there are, I haven't found that yet. I may have to come back and do a little digging and see if I can see if there is a CTC tool or a Revit tool that allows you to do that. But right now, I don't know that there is such a tool in the type swapper to say, hey, show me the items that are in this layer. Glad I could help you out there, Richard. I appreciate the good questions, and Dan, I appreciate your question as well. And Justin, thank you for sending out that link on the CTC software. And we're almost getting, hopefully, here towards the end of the CTC tools type swapper here on its conversion. Again, I'm only doing 4 details, but if I was trying to convert my AutoCAD detail library and having to go through and do this every detail, that would be extremely time consuming, that I want them to be truly Revit details and no longer AutoCAD details. I would definitely look at, because these 4 details are taking us approximately 6 minutes, I would definitely look at setting this up to go before the end of the day, let it run through the night. And then when you come back in, I know I'm going to get a message saying that one of the elements needs to be disjoined, but hit that and then it's done doing the conversion. And then all you got to do is minor cleanup, and then you have those AutoCAD details now into true Revit details. All right, there's my unjoined elements like I was telling you earlier. Here's my report based on what was going on. I'm going to go out to Type Swapper, and you can see it swapped all those out for me, and it put it on the appropriate line type. I don't know why it wants to move this for some reason, but I'm going to go ahead and bring that back, delete that line type there. That cleaned that up. Again, it moved this one out. Why, I don't know. But hey, you could actually get the same thing from, whatever CAD details you may pull off the internet from your vendors. Same things could happen with them. So I'm just kind of coming in and doing a little cleanup work here. And then I'm going to come in and draw me a detail line here, because I want it straight and not on angle. And that one looks like that's cleaned up. This one I've got to clean up here. And so now I've got all those 4 details. They are now converted. Now I could use the CTC tools for Type Swapper for fill patterns, but I find that that one doesn't do what I want it to do. It will go in and come into this filled region here and edit type and change out the fill pattern that is assigned to it, to the appropriate one. But what I typically want is I want this fill pattern to actually be the fill pattern that is in Revit. So I'm going to at least come in and grab those. So I'm going to come in onto one of these views, right click all instances, so that it grabs all those fill patterns at once, and that I can then go in and change them to, to concrete. Same thing here with my gypsum board. Almost forgot what it was there, so sorry, I had a pause there for a minute. Change those out to gypsum board. Got a few solid fills here that I want to switch out. Same thing here with the solid fill for the stud. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here on my civil detail here. And that is not supposed to be concrete. That is supposed to be gravel, and that one is supposed to be sand. So a little minor cleanup, but once I got everything done, now all I have to do now is come in through my manage, go ahead and purged unused, and then I can go to my object styles. Nope. Stand corrected. I'm going to go to my additional settings. I'm going to go to align styles, and then I can now get rid of all these AutoCAD layers that no longer have to be tracked and viewed by Revit. So now at this point, I have these details ready for me to use in Revit. They're no longer AutoCAD. I've gotten rid of all of that AutoCAD residual information, all the fill patterns. I might come back in and purge out the fill patterns and everything else. So that way I no longer have that AutoCAD information that slows down Revit. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and create a sheet. And I purged one too many times, so I've got to go insert a family real quick. Bear with me while I go grab a title block. And let's go ahead and create that. So I'm going to hit W or TW to tile my windows back and ZA to zoom all. I'm going to expand out my project browser here and grab all these different views. And yes, I am putting them crazy on purpose. 2, 3, 4. All right. So there is now on CTC Tools, under the free tools now, there's this new view aligner. And this not only works in the Revit 2022, as you see on here, I've actually used this tool in Revit 2019. So if you get the new CTC tools, they will work back for the older versions of Revit. So what this view aligner allows me to do is come in and use the crop regions to align my views. So I could come in and say, hey, I want to top align all these views. And I grabbed one too many and aligned that. So I'm going to move you out. I'm going to move you down. And I could say, hey, I want to align all the bottom ones here. And I'm going to go ahead and slide this on over. And I could say, hey, I want to center you based on that one. And I'll bring you right back up. Now, the very last one you see right here, it says align by levels. The reason why I'm not showing you that one right now is because the details I have do not have level markers in them. So if I have section cuts, I have elevations, whatever it is that I have, as long as it has a level marker. So I'm going to go create a new sheet here. And I'm going to come in and just drag in a couple of elevation views. Yes, I know they're blank, and I'm doing this on purpose here. So if I come in and use the align views, it will come in and shove them down by the level markers so that I know that they're right in line, because not always the crop regions are square from one area to the other. And so, but that utility only works if the views are the same scale. So if I have one view that's a 1/4 inch, one view that's 1/8 inch, or one that's 3/4, one that's 1.5 inches, they're not going to align level markers at this time. I will say that in the future releases, CTC Tools is looking at trying to do exactly that with the different scales. So with that, I am going to see if there's any other questions. All right, I'm not seeing any come across the board. Um, if there are no more questions, I'd like to thank you for your time and to see different things like what you've seen here with leveraging AutoCAD details into Revit. Please subscribe to our social media platforms on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Um, with that, I'd like to thank you again and have a great ATG day.